this next one, I thought I'd spice things up a little bit and bring one of my friends to the stage. He's actually one of my roommates and a fantastic human being. This is Caleb Chan. And just because I sort of cut my teeth on the Vancouver Poetry Slam scene, I decided that I'd bring back the first slam poem that I ever wrote way back when, which is not actually that long ago, but it sounds really cool. Back in my day. Yeah, so this one, we tried it for like 10 minutes yesterday at Caleb's house, so it may flop miserably, and if it does, then I'll just stop talking and let you hear it violin. Good. So this one's the first poem I ever wrote, and it's called The Rape of Nanking. I was 6 years old when I first saw my grandfather cry. I was 6 years old when I first saw my grandfather cry. Grandpa, why are you crying? I asked. 6 years old, careless and naive. I'm not, he said, wiping his eyes on his sleeve. I'm leaking. Grandpa, why are you leaking? I asked. 6 years old, naive and wondering. Grandpa shuddered, as if some unseen wind had blown into the room and chilled him to the very bone. Then he looked at me with his eyes of fire, but his face was set in stone. Let me tell you a story, he said, of the rape of Nanking. I was 6 years old when I first saw my grandfather cry. Sitting outside our burned-down Mudbrick house, he held his daughter in his arms, he held my mother in his arms, he cried and cried and sat and cried. The year was 1937 and I still remember that day. It was a rainy day. I was playing soccer with my friends when the farmers came running to town screaming, "The Japanese are coming, the Japanese are coming." Nanking went into a panic, only to discover that while night provided cover, the Japanese had already surrounded our town. 10,000 Imperial soldiers stood at our gates. We knew we would not have long to wait for hell itself descended down, and then they came. Hundreds of thousands of yellow-faced demons with rifles and bayonets, they came. Men and women running and screaming, children screaming and running. Father put me in a fishing basket and told me not to come out for anyone. And this is what I saw. The men, they shot. Rifle barrels hot. The bullets came hotter and faster than our Chinese whips could run. I saw my father go down from the sling of a gun, and as his son, I wanted to jump out of that basket and go to him. But he had told me not to come out for anyone. The children, they murdered. Knives flashing, spears slashing and hacking as boys and girls that I had played with, stayed with, ran with, laughed with, and mowed down like a grain in the harvest. And as they fell, I wanted to jump out of that basket and go to them. My father had told me not to come out for anyone. The old folk, they tortured. I cringed as I smelt the smell of skin being singed as they held the torches to our elders and forced them to bow. Then with long pointed spears they pulled at their hair and cut off their ears. I didn't know what grandpa was. I wanted to jump out of that basket and find out. But father had told me not to come out for anyone. And the women, they raped. Mothers screaming and pleading as they were dragged dirty and bleeding onto the streets where every Japanese soldier was given his own personal Chinese geisha. And though the crying and the shrieking overpowered my own weeping, I knew that somewhere my mother was out there, somewhere, I wanted to jump out of that basket and go to her and be her protecting son. My father had told me not to come out for anyone. And see, that's why his eyes still glisten. Because 71 years ago my grandfather listened, and that's why I am here right now, because Grandpa knew that somehow being spared death needed to make his life worthwhile. And that's why once in a while it's worth my while to be around people who've been around for a while, because I learn about myself. And that's why sometimes when I'm alone, working so far away from home, I can still see that day in my proverbial mind's eye as I see the sounds of men and women dying, children and babies crying, knives flashing, spears slashing, guns blazing, hell raising itself. Bombs exploding, faith eroding, killing, slaying, hoping, praying that this is all just a bad dream. And that's why I keep yearning and learning about this, that I know more about this, and I know why the ground in Jerry's shoe is still stained with the blood of a million innocents slain, and I know why my grandfather cries when it rains, and I know why his face is so wrinkled with pain, and I know why my grandmother's deeply ashamed, and I know why Japanese blood runs through these veins, and I know what to do so that Nanking will never happen again.